What's up guys, it's Aiden, and the hair is good, and we're good. Let's get into the video. Today we're going to go through how Post Malone's Congratulations was made on FL Studio. This beat was produced by Metro Boomin, and for my supporters on Patreon, the FLP and the stems are now available to you guys. First off, 100,000 subscribers. I want to thank every single one of you guys for subscribing. And of course, to celebrate the 100K, we have to remake Post Malone's Congratulations. First off, we have the intro. The first thing I want to go through is this lead synth that you hear throughout the entire song. It's going to sound like this without any effects. This is a respace, which I made on Serum. I called it Congratulations, Yeah the Boys. And for oscillator A, we're adding ReCMS 1, which you can find in Spectral, and we're bringing the unison up to 16. Then for oscillator B, we're adding Saw Rounded, bringing the unison up to 15. Then for the filter, we're adding Low 18, so it's going to sound like this without and then with the filter. Then you want to go to voicing, turn on mono, and bring the portamento up to 61 milliseconds. Once you tweak the parameter to 61 milliseconds, you want to go to add automation for last tweaked parameter, and that's going to add an automation clip for the portamento on the Serum. Basically, that means when you take up the portamento in the automation clip, the time it takes to get from one note to the next is going to increase. So without it, it's going to sound like this. Then with it. Then finally, we're going to use LFO2 to modulate the fine tune of oscillators A and B, and it's going to keep both oscillators slightly off pitch. They've already got unison of 16, so it's just trying to bend the pitch even more. Then for external effects, we have Fruity Flanges, then Fruity Reverb 2, and we're taking up the early reflection and the wet level right up. Then we have RC20 Retrocolor, adding some crunch distortion, and Ozone 9 Exciter, adding some more distortion. Then we're doubling down with the Fruity Flanges and RC20 Retrocolor again, and we're going to automate the cutoff. Then we have Parametric EQ2 and Fruity Compressor to finish off the effects. So now in the song, it's going to sound like this. We have some drum samples in the intro as well. So all together. Next up, we have the pre-chorus. First off, we have this stomp sound, which sounds like this without any effects. Then we are stretching it out, and we're going to take the pitch down by 12 semitones, so it's going to sound like this. Then for effects, we're adding Parametric EQ2 to cut out the low end. Then Valhalla Supermassive, which is a free reverb plugin, so it's going to sound like this. So in the song. Then we have the identical whistle sound. And I made this on Omnisphere using the Boys Choir R-A-E-U preset, and we're turning on legato, solo, glide, taking the glide up to 1.32 seconds. So it's going to sound like this in the piano roll. And the reason we have this over two different channels is because if they were both in the same channel, it would slide down from D sharp 6 to A sharp 5, but we want it to jump down. So it would sound like this if it was on the same channel, but we want it to jump down straight away. Then take that pattern into the playlist and go render and replace. So in the playlist, it's going to sound like this. Take the pitch up by 12 semitones and stretch the time in by half. So now it's going to sound like this. Then add that to your mixer, and we're putting on Fruity Reverb and Parametric EQ2 for this low pass filter. So finally, it's going to sound like this. Then we're adding the sub bass you can find on Nexus. It is the Prid sidechain bass in XP Dance Volume 1, and we're playing these two notes. And we're just layering this preset into the pre-choruses. Then we have the part of the song that was most difficult for me to recreate. It was the guitar, which sounds like this. I made this using 3 different presets. The first one is the Ample Bass P, which sounds like this. And we're playing the bass notes, so just B, then F sharp. Then we have the Ample Guitar SH, which plays these chords. Finally, we have the Ample Guitar LP. So all of them together. But I wasn't sure how to go from that to this. So I messaged my guitar friend and he recommended using some shimmer reverb. So I downloaded Valhalla Shimmer and we're using this preset with the mix taken up 100%. And with that turned on, it's going to sound completely different. I exported both chords back into the playlist and we're chopping out this intro part where it fades in. So it's jumping in at this point here. Then I layered in the Ample Guitar SH one more time. And I exported all of that back into the playlist and it's going to sound like this. Next up we have the chorus. Let's start off with the hi-hat. These are both Lex hi-hats. So this is the closed hat and this is the open hat. But for the closed hat, I want to show you a Metro Boomin trick. He's done this in every song of his that I've remade. Go to the envelope/instrument settings and bring up the sus to 100% and bring everything else down to 0. Then go into the piano roll and we're going to make these notes about as long as a 6th step. What this is doing is cutting off the hi-hat at this point here. So if the hi-hats were normal length, it would sound like this. But when you shorten it down, it's going to sound like this. So when the hi-hat's stretched out, it's going to sound like this. But when you shorten it down, it does, in my opinion, sound a lot better. I feel like I just dropped so much sauce on you just then. Sauce! This trick makes a huge difference to the way your hi-hat sounds. So if we make it long again, versus shorter. And let's prove that the hi-hat is identical by comparing it to the original song. So this is the original versus, so watch the original here. Hi-hat sounds and looks the exact same. Next up we have the identical kick, which is the rack kick. And let's compare the waveforms really quick. As you can see, if we drag it in, it matches perfectly. We have the 808. We have the identical snare, which is the BWB The Wave Snare 26. And I almost got fooled into thinking that they used the chop snare, but there's this one part in the instrumental where it's just the snare playing, and I was able to compare the waveforms. This is the chop snare, which sounds like this. And it does sound really similar, which is why I thought that at first, but it doesn't match with the waveforms. Whereas this snare, the BWB The Wave Snare 26, it does. That is a bit louder. As you can see, the waveform is hitting 0 decibels, whereas in the original song, it was only getting to around like -4. So just turn the volume down in the mixer and they'll sound the exact same. Then for the clap, we're using the BWB Wave RS Clap 8, and we are turning the volume multiplier up to 155, then go to the mixer, and we're adding Fruity Soft Clipper to this bus and bringing the post down to 63%. So I'll show you what we're doing. If we turn off that and we go to the clap and bring the volume down to 0, have a look at the master volume. But then when you turn them both on, it's going to sound audibly louder, but it'll be hitting the same -6 decibels. This is before, and this is after. Finally, we have the verses where I want to introduce one more synth coming in from Sylenth. It's going to sound like this. Let's go through that preset. This is what it sounds like. These are just two major chords. So we have B major followed by F sharp major. But once you spread it over 3 different octaves, it's going to sound like this. I made this preset in Sylenth using a sine wavetable and a triangle wavetable, and we've added some distortion and chorus, then a low pass filter. Then we're putting it on the mixer, adding Ozone 9 Exciter for some added distortion, then Parametric EQ2, and this makes a pretty big difference. Just focusing more in on that low end. Anyway, that's it for the remake. Thanks very much for watching. If you like the music playing in the background, you can check their channels in the links in the description. And if you want to get your own music on these videos, hit me up on Instagram and I will use your music in the background. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time.